cultists are born. Resistance is futile. Your life, as it has been, is over. From this time forward, you will service us.
No! We will not service Washington.
Mr. Wolf, fire.
Well, welcome to another exciting edition of the Renegade and the Rambler show. And it'll be me, Dan Bailey, with my daughter, the cute one here. This is Savannah. Savannah, say hi.
Hi.
Okay. Now we'll duct tape her mouth shut so we can get what's on. And we'll be joined tonight with Suzanne, who is taking a mini vacation tomorrow. And then
Hello.
Jeff is hiding somewhere over here. So
I'm here.
Oh, there's Jeff.
I'm just sharing links.
I had Jeff doing all the heavy lifting of the program early.
The one time I put my camera on and you got to bring a gorgeous blonde.
She's got blue eyes too.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, but look at that. How can you not love that Christmas in Utah with that tree in the background and the
Got our tree.
chandelier? I mean, look at that. That's a Western Christmas right there.
There's no tree at the Bailey's house. We don't have room for one at the moment. 1,600 square feet with 6 people, 3 of them adults. No room. No room at all. Okay.
Hey, girl.
Yes, we know. Anyway, so apparently there's been a lot in the news here lately. I guess
I don't know. I just want to watch Savannah. Who cares about the news? Okay, I'll be quiet.
Oh, my soul. Anyway, all right, Jeff, bail me out here. What do we got?
Oh, well, we'll get to the prepping stuff here in a bit. The one thing that was in the news that we really haven't, I don't think any of us even talked a little bit about, is Congress confronts jam-packed December with shutdown deadline looming. I guess evidently they still haven't agreed on a spending package and how much they can squander of our wealth. So
I thought there was
shutdown.
There was a late night vote on that. It passed the House and Senate, sitting on Trump's desk waiting for a signature.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was just a stopgap to give him another month or something like that.
Yeah, it's not the actual budget. It's just one of those continuing resolutions.
Well, what about DACA? Because the Democrats said they were going to shut down the government, one of the few productive things they promised to do, unless that was included. So they're willing to shut down the government over this. I was listening to some commentary today on the radio, and I think it was Andrew Wilkow, it was a replay, and he was saying how the Democrats they're not in charge of anything. They don't have the House, they don't have the Senate, they don't have the White House. But they act like they do. They still control everything. They're threatening to shut the government down if they don't get what they want. And the Republicans, whatever. And we just, they don't fight. They just roll over every single time. So I'd be interested to see what this stopgap measure contains, because they did say they would shut it down. Gosh, I wish they'd shut it down.
I don't think they can.
I was actually rooting for them to shut it down. I don't really care who shuts it down. I just want someone to shut it down. Because then the traffic I face every night going to work back and forth drops considerably when the non-essential personnel are told not to report to work.
Why do we have non-essential personnel? Savannah, what do you think?
Savannah, why do you think we have non-essential personnel in D.C.?
No, Savannah, should we shut the government down?
Because we live here.
Should we shut the government down, Savannah?
No.
Oh, dear.
Why should we shut the government down?
Because that's God.
No.
That's right. She is absolutely correct.
This is why I removed her from public schooling.
We can We can
That
fix
is what they're
this.
teaching them.
He's only in first grade. We can fix this.
It's not too late.
But that is what they teach them today, that government is God. And according to Trump, we don't worship government. So, I mean, we worship God, not government. But
We worship God. And I want to refer people to my article in the National, I beg your pardon, 10th Amendment Center, the Church of the National Government. And it's in response to Donald Trump's assertion, I think it was in the summer of this year, where he said, in America, we worship God, not government. And I take exception to that and spell that out. I think we've talked about that on my show. So thanks for the opportunity for the plug.
Yeah. Well, good. And you have one on national reciprocity at the 10th Amendment Center. I know that's out there. And you just posted another one. I have it. Or did it post yet? Or
you know what?
I just have
you and I discussed
the
it,
Kate
I believe.
Steinle article.
Steinle, yes, about immigration and the nationalization of immigration. And no, that is coming out, though. The 10th Amendment Center, I believe, is going to run with that. So we will get what I wanted to do was take the legal part of the criminal case out of it and just focus on federalism and immigration according to the Constitution as ratified. So that's going to be coming out.
And that's one of the articles. That's one of the stories I'm going to talk about tonight. This is the Kate Steinle, because I'm going to go from the other end. I'm going to go from the legal end because, well, that's what I do. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm on that law enforcement end, and what happened is a travesty of justice. But we'll get to that in a minute. Let's continue on with the looming shutdown that
she makes more sense than the broads I hear on Fox. Let her talk. She makes more sense than the girls on Fox.
Yeah.
It's a shame she don't get the contract they get to do what she's doing.
Darn shame.
I could really go for a couple $1 million right now.
So, anyway, the shutdown that evidently was averted, again, here we are, non-essential personnel. If they're so non-essential to the government, why do we have them? Why are we spending billions and billions to maintain these people, and billions for their pensions in the future and all their benefits in the future?
Trillion. T is for trillion.
Yeah. I mean, hundreds of billions. It's at the very least for these people.
Right.
I mean, cumulatively, it's trillions by the time you put in.
I don't care if it's $1; it's too much.
Well, it's just out of control. But here we are. They're threatening to shut down, like you said, over DACA. You know what? I've said this so many times. It's all political theater. They're in it together. There's no difference. They're two sides of the same Marxist coin. And they all are up there for one thing: to get massively rich and to be powerful and to rule over the 320 million people, because they're megalomaniacs. They're narcissists and they're megalomaniacs. They live for this. This is what they do. And I was just seeing Orrin Hatch. Was it Orrin Hatch that's just leaving? And he was there for what? Since the late 60s or early 70s or something like that, for 40 years.
He's not
40
leaving.
plus years.
No, he's not leaving because he's head of the Senate Finance Committee, and he says if he leaves, it'll be another 50 years before Utah ever gets another representative in that position. What is this all about, Jeff? It's all about power. What have we said? I just saw a report that the 5 richest counties, according to the United States Census Bureau, were guess.
Yeah, Savannah, what's the 5 richest counties?
Savannah, where do you think the 5 richest places in the United States are?
Say Virginia. Say Virginia.
Virginia.
Oh, you're so correct.
Right outside of Washington, D.C. What a surprise that was.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. And honestly, that's what's carrying Virginia. That's why it votes for the Democrats every time now. It's a safely blue state now, because all those people make their living off of government. And what are they going to do? They're not going to vote to vote themselves out of a job. Not
No.
that the Republicans are going to do that. So, anyway,
Sure they
let's
will.
see.
Because there's one good thing the Republicans can do. They can take victory and snatch it from the. How do you put that? They can
snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Because I say
you
that
go.
about the Eagles. When I was a kid, that's what we said about the Eagles every year, because that's what the Eagles always did. They snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. They'd be on the cusp of going to the playoffs, and they choke. So
well, now they choke in the playoffs. They actually get to the playoffs, and then they go.
Yeah. How do we get from shutdowns to football?
I'd much rather talk
only on this show.
Shutdowns, but
well, I'd rather talk shutdown if they're actually going to shut it down, but they won't.
Oh, well, we know the Democrats aren't going to actually shut it down. So, what do you two think? Do you think the reciprocity bill ever makes it through the Senate?
Yeah,
because I personally don't think
absolutely. Absolutely.
It will.
Even if they have to do it through reconciliation like they did with the Obamacare, it'll go through. And it'll go through with the gun control measures in it, because the House leadership wanted those too. And they pushed it through with it like that.
So you think they're going to get it through because they're going to throw the Dems a bone with the you can only do certain weapons and you have to do X number of hours of training and all that other garbage?
And, you know, if I can chime in here for a minute, we talk about this all the time, and this went over from our other show also with Mark Creslin's, is it makes people very uncomfortable to have them accept as fact something that goes so beyond or contrary to what they've been taught, meaning specifically that the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, is a statement of rights conferred upon us by the general government. Specifically, we have a right to free speech. We have a right to keep and bear arms. Even when presented with the article that I wrote on national reciprocity and how it's a Trojan horse. By the way, I did not think that my prediction that Carl and I put out in the article, Carl Jones, my co-author, would be so spot on accurate so fast. We anticipated regulations and a restriction on our ability to carry concealed if you have a permit to be restricted once this was put into implementation, and we had challenges by the states over the disparity of the standards in issuing them. But what we see here is the Democrats immediately, with the consent and approval, I will say with the Republicans, of attaching the NICS fix to this, which is going to serve to add veterans to a prohibited class. For instance, people still, even when they read this article, cannot wrap their itty bitty brains around the concept. And here's a bit of commentary. I am a moderator on a group called Open Carry Utah. The article makes one fatal mistake. The Second Amendment is not a states' right issue. It clearly is a prohibition to both federal and state governments declaring a right left strictly to the people. I would think an article written by the 10th Amendment Center would have a better understanding of the 10th Amendment. Since many states are infringing upon the rights left to the people, it is not only within the rights, but rather a responsibility and duty for the federal government to circumvent state infringements. This isn't federal tyranny, but rather abolishing state tyranny. What he's referring to are two things. First, that the Virginia plan, which was a federal veto over state laws. And second, he's ignoring that the fact that the Second Amendment in and of itself doesn't even need to exist, because nowhere in Article 1, Section 8 did the states grant or delegate the power to the general government to regulate firearms, period. Accordingly, looking at James Madison's Federalist, I believe 45, and the 10th Amendment, all powers not delegated to the general government remain with the states, and they just don't get it.
I think where there was a little bit of, I think where the reason for this came was because they gave the general government some authority over the militias. And I think that the reason they put it in is because they were afraid that since they gave them a little piece of
Because they had the
authority.
power to arm the militia.
They were afraid that they were right. They were afraid
Yeah.
that they were going to be able to disarm the militia, and then have their standing army. What do we have today? We have a standing army. Do we have a militias anymore? No, they disarmed them. So were the framers that wanted this in there correct? Absolutely. Again, they were proven correct. But I think that's why they put it in there, because I think they were a little bit nervous because they gave them a little bit of a bite of authority, and they were afraid they were going to take the whole cow instead of just that steak. And they did take the whole cow.
Yeah, the specific right was that the federal government had the opportunity or had the power to arm and call forth the militia. And so, again, the Second Amendment was a reiteration of the fact that, yes, you can do that, but you cannot disarm them because they need to, because what happens then? What did they fear? A standing army. And that's exactly what we have. And then I get the argument I always hear: the Second Amendment clearly states the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It clearly prohibits any level of government from infringing. So the 10th Amendment clause, nor prohibited by the states, is noteworthy since the Constitution clearly prohibits states. So what they're doing is completely misunderstanding the purpose of delegated powers and the intent of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and what was intended to remain with the states, and why. Even when you give them the complete history and the founding fathers, the founding generation's fear of a militia being disarmed and the fear of standing armies, people cannot wrap their heads around the fact that they think it's a good idea to trust this general government in light of all of its indiscretions with such a precious right. They think they're just so indoctrinated to look at the national government as the solution to secure and vanguard our rights when they've proven historically to be the problem.
Yeah. Okay. While I was in Philadelphia, I had a conversation with a couple gentlemen there. One of them brought up that there's national reciprocity was passed, and what was my feeling? So, what was I going to do? I blew them away. They were kind of shocked. Their mouths dropped open. I said, "I'm not for it." They think
people like us are going to love it.
And I was like, I said, here's two reasons why I don't agree with it. Number one, it's not constitutional. If you read the preamble to the Bill of Rights, it tells us that the framers, because they framed the Constitution, the framers wanted some additional wording and restrictions on the general government so they wouldn't misconstruct or abuse their power. So this is only that it's a restrictive to the general government that was created by the Constitution. That's all it was. So it's not constitutional. And I said, that means that every federal firearms law is unconstitutional. There's not one they passed that's constitutional. None. Zero. Nil. So that's number one. Then I said, number two, think about this. Pennsylvania, because we were sitting in Philadelphia, and I was sitting there talking to a law enforcement officer. I said, Pennsylvania has very, very gun-friendly laws. Now, New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts have very, very poor gun laws because they're very, very restrictive. So when they pass this and it goes to the court, because I guarantee you the first thing that's to happen is it's going to get sued, and it's going to be San Francisco in the Ninth Circuit. Mark my words on that. It's going to be San Francisco in the Ninth Circuit. They're going to sue because what's going to come out of the Ninth Circuit? It ain't going to be gun-friendly. So I said, here's what happened. They're going to sue, and then the courts are going to pass legislation and say, well, we're going to have to standardize everything. And here's how it's going to happen. Okay, so New York has a registration. You actually register the firearms. So I showed you the back of my New York State concealed carry permit. It has every pistol that I own, serial number, everything about it. So they have a registry. They're going to say, well, you have to have a registry. You're going to have this. You're going to have that. And what's Pennsylvania going to do? They're going to knuckle under. And then so much for our gun-friendly state. There goes your ability to buy silencers in Pennsylvania. They're going to be gone. That's where this is going to go. It's standardization. It's going to screw states like Pennsylvania, good states. I said, here's the thing of federalism. Pennsylvania has it together. We have it pretty good. New York, it sucks. New Jersey, it sucks. Massachusetts, it sucks. That's federalism. Some states suck.
And what happens when we have, well, when I was in law school, we hear this all the time because as we all know, we study case law. So as we're studying case law and Supreme Court decisions, which are what lawyers to be are taught is the appropriate way to understand the Constitution, never is the R word, ratification, ever discussed. But we always hear because or due to inconsistent state opinions, this case is ripe for review. No, it ain't. Inconsistent state opinions are the heart of federalism. Mind your own damn business.
We can't do that.
Daniel, I think we're 2 minutes
yes,
out.
We are.
You want to take us out to a break?
Yes, I shall.
Take us out to a break. All right.
This is the Renegade and the Rambler show, guest hosting with Suzanne and my daughter, Savannah, who I think is here for comedy relief tonight. And we are only on the Cerberus Radio Network. We'll be right back after this.
Suzanne Sherman, shooting straight on everything from prepping to politics. The Wasatch Report, every Monday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, on the Cerberus Radio Network. Looking for a new custom camo dress or scarf? Tail Gunner Apparel. Looking for bath and body products for women and men? Tail Gunner Apparel. Looking for bed scarves and custom home products? Tail Gunner Apparel. Look awesome and feel even better. Tail Gunner Apparel on Facebook or at tailgunnerapparel.etsy.com. That's tailgunnerapparel.etsy.com.
Made love and then you cried. Remember when?
Cerberus Radio Network, protecting liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny.
Just hear those sleigh bells jingling, ring ting tingling too. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. 'Cause outside the snow is falling and friends are calling you. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. Giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, let's go. Let's look at the show.
And no, we're not riding in my 18-wheeler tonight. We are live on the Cerberus Radio Network, and this is the Renegade and the Rambler show. Guest hosting tonight is Suzanne Sherman and the pretty blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl, which somehow is related to me. Yes, I know nobody can believe this. This is what happens. I think she takes mostly after her mother. We'll go with that anyway. But anyway, what I was going to say, but we had to take a break. Jeff, all Pennsylvania state laws are unconstitutional because, as you might know, Pennsylvania's Second Amendment regulation in the Constitution says my right shall not be questioned, which means felons should be able to own guns in Pennsylvania. Anybody should be able to own guns in Pennsylvania because it's not the legislature's job to question it, at least not in this state. But I digress. It's my little pet peeve. I like my state constitution. I just wish the legislature liked it as much as I do.
Are we gonna continue on with that, or should I just? I want to touch on Case Steinle for just a minute. I don't want to stay there long, and then we can get into our 3 or 4 prepping gifts. I have some inexpensive ones, but I have a little bit more expensive one. But I want to talk about Kate Steinle just for a second. Suzanne did a great job talking about it from the immigration end of it. I just want to talk about it from the law end of it.
Proceed, mon capitan.
So I think everyone knows about this. Kate Steinle was shot. I believe it was at a park, wasn't it, Suzanne?
It was on a
She was in
pier.
a park.
I believe it was Pier 14.
Okay.
In San Francisco.
It's park, pier. She was out in public. She was just, I don't know, sitting or standing. She was doing what everyone does every day, and ended up being shot by an illegal immigrant. And so the fact of the matter is there was a law broken. And I think Suzanne touched on it during her show that it appears as though this DA was searching for this verdict by the route that he brought it to the jury, by going for a capital murder or a murder two, which I'm not sure if it was first or second degree. But he went for the whole thing. And to be truth be told, I think that was the same way that the DA did it with the Trayvon Martin case, because they went for a murder and nothing else. This guy went for murder and nothing else. I guess the charge was that they could, to the jury, they could consider other things, but they didn't, because I think all that was presented to them was this. So they reached a verdict that was technically correct, because he didn't commit murder. But he did commit a crime. At the very least, it was criminally negligent homicide. At the very most, it could be construed as man one. I mean, it really was a depraved indifference to life. So it really was a man one type situation. So justice was not served in this case. This person was murdered. This family has a loss, and they're not going to get justice for it. This was totally unacceptable. And in way to kind of describe this a little bit, in New York State, just recently at the end of the rifle season, a lady was walking her dogs and was shot and killed by a hunter. It was after dark. He was hunting illegally. And because of that, he is now facing a manslaughter charge. He turned himself in. He knew he'd done wrong, and he went and turned himself in. Matter of fact, he went, when he saw what he shot, he actually went and rendered aid to the person. He didn't go and just run away from it. He actually did the right thing. But he's going to go to prison because he committed a crime. It wasn't a man one. I think he's going to get man two or something else, because it wasn't like it was depraved, and he wasn't, his intention wasn't not to do this. This other one was definitely a little bit more depraved. He's a felon in possession. He was a felon in possession of firearms. He was 6 times deported and back here. He's broken multiple laws, but that doesn't matter, because they were fishing for a verdict, and they got the verdict they wanted. They put justice behind making a social and political statement. And that's really all I have to say on the Kate Steinle.
What, wasn't he a 5-time felon or 6-time felon?
He was awaiting his 6th deportation, and ICE had surrendered him to the San Francisco County Sheriff's Department. And they, in accordance to the city's status as a sanctuary city, released him. He was going to be sent for prosecution. He was sent to be held on a drug charge. So he was released, and subsequent to that came into possession of a firearm that was owned by a BLM employee. So ironically, we have, as I said on my show, an individual who was in California illegally, who was in possession of a firearm owned by an employee of an agency that didn't have constitutional authority to exist in the first place, took this gun and fired it in a public place. And as you said, Jeff, and I said on my show as well, the DA did not want this guy to serve hard time. He was convicted on a firearms charge, as he was a felon in possession of a firearm, and we know that is unlawful. So we have a hierarchy of the progressive agenda. First and foremost is gun control. Second is illegal immigration to turn the entire nation blue. And then somewhere not even really mattering much to them is justice, especially when a white United States citizen is involved. They could have easily, I heard talk about involuntary manslaughter, because as we know, murder is defined in California under what Penal Code Section 187 as an unlawful killing by another human being by another human being with malice aforethought. Malice aforethought means it's an intent to kill with some premeditation. And he said it was an accident, or he had picked it up and it was in a t-shirt and it just went off. He had not testified, but he had admitted to, I believe, firing it to an ABC journalist while he was in prison. So there were so many inconsistencies to the story, but they were just reaching, because they could have really charged him with voluntary manslaughter, which is defined as murder without malice aforethought. So it's an unlawful killing without malice aforethought. It could be unintentional, but it takes into consideration not only sudden heat of passion like a quarrel, but a wanton and reckless disregard for human life, as opposed to involuntary manslaughter, which is defined. It can be an unintentional killing during an unlawful activity that is not inherently dangerous, is one example. So they could have gotten that, but honestly, I think slam dunk could have been voluntary manslaughter.
Well,
Right.
what about do they have a reckless discharge of a firearm they could have charged him with?
That would have covered the voluntary manslaughter. It's incomprehensible to me that he could be charged with, or convicted, I'm sorry, of a firearms charge, but not held criminally culpable of the death resulting from that activity. And again, to me, this is not only a matter of the DA, Diane Garcia, not just her. Somebody had to be overlooking this case. There was supervision. I'm sure the district attorney knew all about what was going on. And even if they had charged it, possibly, we still have, it's San Francisco, the looniest city there is. And there could have very easily also been an incident of jury nullification. You know, jury nullification is not without its dangers. So it could have been any one of those things. Had it been adequately charged, I would be saying more jury nullification rather than malfeasance on the part of the district attorney.
Do you think that Sessions having charged her him with federal crimes now is the correct mode, or? Well,
according to the Constitution is ratified, and that's always my threshold inquiry. Let's see, the general government is authorized under the Constitution to punish 3 crimes: counterfeiting, piracy on the high seas, and treason. So if that's A, B, or C, then yes. Otherwise, it's a local matter, and it is none of the federal government's business.
Exactly. That's why I say, please somebody show me the delegated authority for municipal policing at the federal level. Anyone, please. I'm still waiting for somebody to show me, because there is no municipal policing at the federal level. That is a municipal issue. Your local community, if you decide to have some sort of policing, that's yours. The highest thing that anywhere, even with the states, is a county sheriff. I mean, that's an elected position to keep it accountable to the people in that county. Outside of that, there is no authority for it. Okay, why in a freak does a BLM agent have a firearm anyway? Why do we have?
Because he's got to put
arm.
Rogue squirrels.
BLM.
Rogue ranchers? I don't know.
Yeah,
well,
got to keep those ranchers.
That's
in line.
exactly why.
Lord
And
knows those cattle might eat too much of the
Fulcrum
grass.
paid the price for being too loud of a rancher. Was gunned down by the FBI outside of a SUV with his hands up.
So another point of contention with this was that ICE had put him on a retainer. They were trying to deport him, and California let him loose. Did not the founders deal with this during the Kentucky and Virginia resolutions back in, what was it, 1801, or it was the early 1800s? I know that. During the Adams administration with the Alien and Sedition Acts.
Well, this is a state issue. If California wants to be a sanctuary state, again, I hate to keep coming back to this, but if states want to suck, they can suck all they want. See, but I don't have to pay for California sucking. So if they want to have all these people there, that's fine. But don't ask me to pay for these people.
But you are paying for these people.
Well, I know. That's the problem.
Regrettably, you have to pay for it whether you want to or not, because the Fed takes all the money, puts it in a kitty, and then sends it back. And this is why we need to get back.
And that's exactly the problem here. Everybody's talking about a wall, and a wall and discussions about a wall is nothing but another feel-good platitude. It's a Band-Aid until we stop the handing out of taxpayer money to people for no other reason than the fact that they cross the border. A wall won't do any good. They'll get around it. They'll find another way. A wall will not do any good. Have you ever heard of a tunnel? There are tunnels there. So here's the thing. We have to stop making it financially worthwhile for these people to come here. And then we have to start sending them back, and we have to knock off all, but the other side is, look, according to the Constitution as ratified, I sound like a broken record. I'm sorry. But look, 13 sovereign and independent states came together and formed a compact. They formed a union. At the time, they granted the general government power to have a uniform rule of naturalization. Now, naturalization is the process by which one becomes a United States citizen. That's not the same at all as immigration. Immigration is a right for the states to decide, as they were sovereign and independent, remember, who is going to live and work and have a life within their borders. Why would they surrender that to the general government and not include it in the Constitution? Also, since the Constitution only grants the government the power to punish the 3 crimes I already mentioned, why would they be given the authority to regulate an activity they had no power to enforce? It makes no sense.
Daniel, any last thoughts on this? Because we need to move on. Because I want to get to the Christmas gifts. I'm done with this politics crap. I want to go Christmas gifts the rest of the show. So do you have anything else you want to say about that?
No, but we are up against a break. So shall we hit the break?
Let's blast through the break.
Blast through it? Okay, take it away then.
So, Suzanne, you were on a show the other day, and that's what this is how it started out, because I loved the show. It was great. I listened to the show, and for the most part, it was a pretty much consensus about a few things. So what I chose is kind of some little bit different things. But Daniel, did you have a chance? I put it out there. Did you have some prepping gifts that you were going to suggest? Because I have 1, 2. I think I have 3. Suzanne, I don't know what you got. So Suzanne, why don't you start with 1, and we'll kind of go around. We'll go round robin here. And so I know you got a box. I saw it earlier. I saw your picture earlier. So why don't you go with 1, and then I'll go with 1.
The other day, I was on a podcast, Mind for Survival, Mind for the number 4 for Survival, and my good friend Brian Duffy, who's a former Army Ranger, has this website, and he decided to do a Christmas show and invited me to participate, promote the network, tell them what we're all about, and come up with 3 prepper gifts. Well, here's one that I have here, and I think this is a great gift. I have to admit, I haven't used it yet, but it is called a Borrow Cook. It is a flameless cooking system. This is what it looks like right here. And then if you can see on the back, it's little pots in here. And then what you do, it comes with packets that when you squish them has a chemical reaction, and it will cook food, it will boil water. If you're in the winter time and you're in a vehicle doing long distance traveling, this can keep you warm. It can keep you fed. Have some chunky soup or something you can dump in there. But I think this is a really cool little gift. And it is the Baro Cook, B-A-R-O, Cook Flameless Cooking System. You can get it on, I believe, Amazon.
I'll have to, let's see if we can come up with a link for that later. So
I'll
Daniel,
look right
did you have time? Did you have time to think of any gifts?
I like my new little flashlight I got.
Okay. Well, and the flashlight was one of the ones that came up, I think, during the show, if I remember right. And it is always to have a good flashlight, and that looks like it's a good flashlight. Anything?
I got it for no. This was pretty much it. I got this for $40 on Amazon. So,
yeah. And I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go take this to the tactical thing. I have on my Glock. I have a weapon-mounted light. The one thing you always got to remember with weapon-mounted lights: when you point that light at someone, you're pointing a gun at someone. And in some states, that is a crime. If you're, unless you're actually, I mean, if it's someone in your house, that's not. But if you light someone up with your weapon-mounted light, that can be a crime in some states, especially if they're not the person that is the problem. So it's always good to have a good light like that to use separate from your firearm. So, and besides that, there'll be times when you need light when you're out. If you break down or something, it's always good to have light. Any thoughts on the light there, Suzanne? I mean, I have all kinds of lanterns, LED lanterns I have for emergency lighting and stuff like that.
I love, when it comes to lights, I love these. These are really, really solid. Yeah. This is called a stream light. You can use it as a lantern. This one's, you can hang it from things and different settings. Yeah, I know, sorry. But this thing is rock solid, and it has all sorts of different options on there. I'm also big on communications. So one thing, if something happens, this is a little crank and AM radio with the crank and a flashlight. Yeah. I love these things. This is Sangean, Sangean. Love it. All on Amazon, you can get this stuff.
Now, we need to get you a crank AM radio.
Mine is an IFAC. And we've gone over these a bunch of times. Mine's a little bit more in depth. You can obviously you can see that there is a IV setup in mine, which most people won't have. But if you to get into a basic IFAC with just the basics, you'll want to get a good bag to carry it in as well. This one here has Velcro on the back. It sticks to the back of the belt, and then there's a strap that comes around. You just unsnap it, and I carry it right in the center so I can reach it right or left-handed. If you were injured, you fell off a tree stand, you have an open fracture on this arm, and you're bleeding, I can always reach with my left arm, get it out, and inside here's a tourniquet. I could stop any bleeding if it was that bad of bleeding. Now, what I wanted to say, though, is if you go to eBay, you can buy what they call a refill kit, a IFAC refill kit, and it comes with a North American Rescue cat tourniquet. So you can get that for like $32. But so it has an Israeli bandage, it has some gauze, it has a nasopharyngeal airway, it has some lubricant for the nasal airway. Has adhesive tape. It has that combat application tourniquet, the cat tourniquet, the red tip. I find that the North American Rescue are some of the best on the market. You're going to get 2 pairs of nitrile gloves, and you're going to get a stainless steel medical shear. They're just cheap ones, but that's all you need. You're not looking. It doesn't have to be anything special. You can get these for $32. That's a great place to start. You just have a few other things to add afterwards. So for $32, you can get all the basics. You'll want to add an extra. I always carry 2 Israeli bandages because if it was a gunshot, you may have an entrance and an exit. So you definitely need 2. You'll want 2 occlusive dressings.
And
you
this
can
is
build
what they
that,
look like. You can get them in packets like this. Israeli bandages, yes. Emergency trauma bandages.
And then you
yes.
get two glow. If I have my other bag here, this was in my hunting pack. That's why I got up and turned my camera off. I went over my hunting pack and got my IFAK out of my hunting pack because I carried it with me while hunting. And so it's for more. These things could save your life or somebody you come across.
And, I think it's also important to have them, and if you didn't say this already, in your vehicle. Our good friends, John Roberts, who was on the show earlier from Survival Medical, had come across, actually Scott Stallings for PrepperCon had come across an overturn a vehicle accident. And he was the only one at the scene that had a first aid kit in the car, and that tourniquets, things like that. You might not be the most fun Secret Santa at the office party, but
yeah. But you're going to give people life-saving things. And actually, speaking of accidents, Daniel, you'll be interested to know. Driving home from Philadelphia on Friday morning, I'm driving up the northeast extension of the new Pennsylvania Turnpike, and about an eighth of a mile ahead of me, I see debris and stuff flying in the air. I see a tractor trailer along the side of the road, and then it dawns on me, he's not on the road. He is in the median, the left-hand dirt, and it's dirt and debris. And when I got up there, I don't know what happened. I couldn't see what happened, but I was literally from 70 miles an hour to flashers on and stopped in front of all the pieces of the truck. He wiped out a good section of the guardrail, and he was over there. The truck was a mess. I saw the door open. I saw him throwing his bags out. I opened my window. I said, "Are you okay?" He gave me the thumbs up. He was fine. So the operator was fine. But this was one of those situations. Had he not been fine, in my truck was an IFAK, I could have rendered aid. Since it wasn't necessary, I did continue on my trip, which was a good thing because I think when I look back in my mirror, I was the last vehicle that got past that accident, and I would have probably been there for hours because it was a mess.
Yeah, that actually happened to me once on a highway. I saw two big rigs get into an accident, and I crawled through, just zigzagged through, saw they were okay, and made it. And then after that, everybody was backed up. It's pretty scary to see. I think we should also give a shout out to some of our friends and supporters that are authors. We have a lot of authors that write for the in the post-apocalyptic genre. And the first one that I ever read was a book called Good Fences by our friend Boyd Craven. And I couldn't put it down. I saw it was a promoted post on Facebook, and I thought, what the heck? It was 99 cents. I ordered it, and I sent Boyd a message, and we became friends right away. He actually stayed here with me in PrepperCon last year. Really good guy. So Good Fences, Boyd Craven. And the thing is with Amazon, you can just go and make it a gift and just send it right to somebody's email. If you're a last minute shopper, you don't have to stress and go out the crowd. A couple others, Dave McIntyre, winner of season 2 of Alone, has a series. I've posted those on there as well. And Kate Morris, A.R. Shaw, Angry Americans.
I just finished that one. I just finished Angry Americans. I'm current. I'm waiting for the next one to come out. I won't tell you because if you're going to read it, I don't want to ruin it for you. So Angry American, Franklin Horton.
Yes, I was just going to mention him as well.
There's so many really good books, and you know what? They're actually really fun to read, people. They're fun.
Yes,
and actually you'll learn some things. And I'm going to add one you probably have never read, and he only has the 3 books, but they are really, really good if you ever want to read. It's from a different perspective, but it's Max Velocity, and it's a Patriot series. It's 3 books. Very, very good. Daniel, did you have any other gifts? or was it just the light? That was about the only thing you had for us.
Pretty much the light, and then I don't know, maybe a Leatherman, a multi-tool knife. Of course, my stuff's not. There's nothing cheap about either one of the. I have 2. The one I got on me is a Leatherman, but the one I carry at work's a SOG with all the attachments. They're not cheap. They're about $40 to $50. You can get them at. I think you can buy most of them on Amazon, but. It's always good to have a good multi-tool. You never know when you're going to need it. And don't don't do the cheap stuff. It just breaks. The Leatherman and the SOG have lifetime warranties. If anything breaks on them, you call them up. They'll send you the attachments for like next to nothing. I think you got to pay shipping and handling.
You know, if you want to get up there and pay a little bit more on knives, I have a friend, Mike Vellicamp from The Knives. I posted a link for him as well. He does these himself, beautiful knives, and it's his own company. EJ Snyder also has his brand of knife out there. A fun little stocking stuffer if you don't want to spend that kind of money, but you do get what you pay for. I've held that knife that EJ made. It is very well balanced, very nice, solid knife. Stuff like a life straw. For, you know, it's under $20. It can fit in a stocking backpack. You can take it with you anywhere. Oh, those are awesome. I love those little camp shovels too. We actually have one by Cold Steel.
Yeah, I didn't screw it down, so it's still will fold up. A good e-tool. This is on my ruck. I carry an e-tool. You never know when you're going to need to dig stuff. When you're out, if you get stuck out there, you may need this. This is not that very expensive. They're a cheap one. I know that on the show there was a lot of people that were talking about the about hatchets, but I don't know that anyone ever mentioned an e-tool.
And those are great, especially out here, you know, in the snow. You can get stuck in the snow somewhere as well. Also, my good friend Mikhail Makurioff, he was actually on the debut of the show Bushcraft Build-Off. And he has a little stainless steel cutout called an emberlit stove that comes in its own carrying pouch. And you could put it together, and it's a little wood stove that you can cook on.
Yeah,
very
I'm
transportable.
The one I was going to order is out of stock, so I'm waiting for that to get back in stock.
Okay.
Go ahead, Suzanne. What's your next one? Do you have another one there in your in your box of gifts over there?
Well, you know, these are kind of cool just to put in stocking stuffers as well, are the hand warmers. These are really good when you're out there, and that can go in a backpack. And let's see, what else do I have here? What is this?
I was told with the hand warmers, you can take the used ones and put them in like your gun safe and stuff. Apparently it helps keep the moisture out of them.
These are also good little hand cranked flashlights. These are kind of fun. So that'll take a little while to charge up, but a couple of these, just put them in your pack. I've just got some stuff just stored away for when the time comes. And so little hand crank, and they're also solar powered lights. Who makes these? This is just in my big treasure trove here. This is Simpeak, Simpeak, and little LEDs. Again, not very expensive, and you can just keep it in your pack there. So stuff like that people wouldn't even think of. And then, okay, everybody laughs, but here we go. Go girl. And for girls that are out in the woods, I tell you, it is a female urination device, and everybody laughs about it. But the girls that are out there, we're out there hunting in sub-zero weather. I was actually staying in little mini cabins when we were bull elk hunting not too long ago. And you know what? It was 19 degrees at night, and that little outhouse toilet seat, that thing's cold. Not only that, we had a camp full of bears. I wasn't going to go out there. Or imagine if you're in a situation, we saw in Hurricane Matthew, people that were trying to travel afterwards and stuck for hours and hours and hours at a time on the highways. Now, if you're a lady, are you going to get out and do what you got to do on the side of the road? Or can you do this discreetly while maintaining your security and your modesty in your vehicle? So people laugh at them, but they are highly useful sanitary devices, and they're about $10. They even come in camo.
All right. So Daniel, I don't know how you followed that one up.
Moving along.
But it's up to you.
I was trying to look one up, but the idea struck me because Suzanne's into hand crank stuff. So I was trying to see if there was a hand crank ham radio or GMRS radio. I'm not finding one. But if somebody would like to figure one up with an electronics background and stuff, I'm pretty sure somewhere we could find the right people to put one together.
Yeah.
You know, ham radio is also great. I think you can get the handheld like a Baofeng, or you can get a system in your vehicle. If something happens What?
They have a bay phone that's like $60.
Yeah, and
you'll want to jump up to a Yaesu or something like that. That's it's a military grade. They're definitely more expensive, but it's going to last. It's submersible. I mean, it is actually waterproof. You can take it underwater. And it's military grade Yaesu, and I don't have mine right here, so I can't.
We should do a show on that sometime. Yeah.
All right.
You need to have
my last one. We're almost out of time.
Okay.
Let me get my last one.
No, like it's an emergency. I'll be quiet.
So I had my two inexpensive ones, not very expensive. So for the last one, for all you SH, the acronym, the crap hits the fan. All right, so if your cap hits the fan, people, you don't have to go as expensive as I really want to go, but I can't afford it either right now. I went with the Gen 1. You'll want to get yourself an MVG. This has an Arado slip mount to go right to my helmet. This is the Gen 1s. You can get somewhere around $300.
NVG is
night vision. This is night vision. A night vision device, night vision goggle, whatever you call it. This is a helmet-mounted night vision goggle or monocle. I mean, I decided we're going to go with a little bit more expensive one. I really want the PVS 14. So if anyone out there wants to buy this poor host of PVS 14, they're only about $3,000, but they are awesome. So yeah, you can go from just a Gen 1. That's what I'm running because I can't afford a PVS 14, which I really, really want. But at $3,000, I will buy other things.
Can you show that? Can you show that again? I didn't get a good look at it there, Jeff.
And Jeff, how many times in these books? I think in Frank Horton's books, they had night vision goggles that proved very helpful. Yeah, this is invaluable. I will tell you, I went to you all know I went to Philadelphia for that Christmas party at the smoke shop, and I took my ruck because I was 200 miles from home. So I had my big pack. So I had my NVG. I had my ballistic helmet. I had spare mags. I had all my stuff. I had my there's just too much to say. Last thing I would also suggest is always a good thing to have tarps around. You can make shelters and stuff out of those. That's my last one that I'm going to mention. But we're really out of time. And I mean, this was fun. I wanted to get us off those other ones sooner, but it just didn't work out. But
tarps also do good to keep it out of sight, all that stuff out of sight, so that you don't scare the local cops there in Philly, because they really freak out easy. I don't blame them.
We'll talk another time. We'll talk another time. Not all of them, because I know some of them. Okay. Anyway, Merry Christmas, guys. This was fun. I enjoyed the Christmas gift ideas, from very inexpensive to maybe a little bit more than you would normally spend. But get some of the books. I mean, I'm with you, Suzanne. If you looked at my Kindle on here, it is packed full of books. So I've read so many of them. So Daniel.
This is the Renegade and the Rambler show with guest host Suzanne Sherman sitting in today. We will be back next week at our normal time at 8 o'clock, barring any unforeseen electrical issues at the Southern Command Post here. So stay safe this week. Watch out for all the winter weather. If you're driving in the Northeast, be mindful. We have lake effect snow here. You can run right into a snowstorm at a moment's notice. And yeah, nobody out here on the East Coast knows how to drive in it anyway.
Okay, and Jeff's on live tomorrow, and then I'll be on Tuesday.
Correct. Jeff's on tomorrow at 9 o'clock. I believe it's 9 o'clock. And Suzanne will be on Tuesday.
10 Eastern.
10 Eastern. It's awfully early out there. But anyway, have a good night. Yes, Suzanne is awesome. She's a rock star.
Oh.
We will see you all when we see you again. Stay tuned to the webpage and for updates. And have a good weekend. If you don't see us between now and then, have a Merry Christmas.